Hi there, welcome back to the VMO YouTube channel. It's Jansen here. Today I'm back on Sand Point. Now, there's not a lot of fish around at the moment. We all know that. It's all we keep hearing. But having said that, there are a few straggler cod around. Could I be lucky today and pick up one of those fish? That's what today's video is all about. It's or bust, basically, to try for a cod. Got some good weather conditions, got some great bait. Let's see what happens. So this is my first cast. It's about, what is it now? Two and a half hours before low tide. Got a nice set of neap tides at the moment, and I really do think that neap tides offer the best chance of catching a cod in the channel. A lot of people favour spring tides, but I just think when you've got these neaps, it really opens up a lot of marks that you couldn't otherwise fish. So that's only my first cast out there at the moment, and you can see I've got this real powerful run of tide running from right to left. And when that tide's running, that is often the time when you're going to see a cod. It is so peaceful here today though. What little wind there is offshore. I'm kind of tucked out of it down here. So the sea is like a proverbial mill pond. So my tackle when it comes to cod fishing is the pulley rig, and straight away you can see there I've got that baited up with some nice juicy blow lug and half a peeler crab whipped onto that hook. The hooks, they're 4.0 Varivas big mouths. They're not the extra version. I prefer these. They're slightly finer in the gauge and they will bend out of a snag if you do get them snagged up. Weak link system on there, 6-ounce SKM lead with decent wires. The wires aspect of a lead is so important. They are literally welded in there, no rollers, no beads, so they won't just pop out with a little bit of tide. Really takes a bit of effort to pull those out. So weak link system, as you've seen before, Gemini splashdown solo bait clip, love those. And of course the pennel rig, the classic hook arrangement. So no dongle here. I prefer to use a pennel rig for cod. Cod bites are so few and far between, you really do want to make those count. And if we move further up the rig, 100 pound Asso Classic in the clear rig body there, and 60 pounds Maxima Chameleon. Topping off the rig with a size 2 Cedra X3 power crane swivel, and directly below that a size 3 of the same. So that's what we've got out there in the water at the moment. That's what we've got to go out in a minute. Let's see what comes of it. So that's the first nice lug and crab bait been out there for a little while now. 20 minutes or thereabouts. No signs of life, but that's hardly a surprise. Let's see if we can get this one back. Now first off, I did let out a lot of line to get the lead to grip in the bottom. So I've got to catch up with that line first. And I'm just pulling it back towards the lead. Of course, it's all under tension, it's going to be. And that rod is hooped over. So I'm still catching up with the lead. And starting this early in the tide, you are going to, lose the odd set of gear. So that does seem to be pretty welded in there. Just keep the tension on, keep the rod locked up, just hold it for a second. And yeah, that one is properly in there. So let's make sure it's as tight as we can get it at the water's edge. And I'm just going to slowly ease my way back. And I find that will often dislodge a set of gear one way or another. If it's the lead, The lead will snap off the weak link. If it's a hook, we'll probably bend the hook out. Oh, funny enough, I've just seen a lead at my feet. Obviously one that someone's lost in the past. And this ground is just absolutely savage sometimes. She can't take much more, Captain, I know that much. In case you're wondering, it's a spider hitch leader knot on here. That is some serious pressure now. And it's gone. There we go. Whew. So cast number 2. Delayed by a few minutes just to swap spools over on the reels. And that really is the beauty of the fixed spool reel. Unscrew the spool, stick another one straight back on, and you're good to go. So here we go again. Great stuff. Right out in the run, hopefully where Mr. Cod is hanging out. Now usually, as you've seen on previous videos, I'd move the tripod down closer to the water. Now it's drained out a bit, but we are a bit lacking on sort of suitable platforms here. But give it another 20 minutes, half an hour, and there is a nice little platform which will pop up just down there. Well, there we go. That's the one I've just wound in. Obviously missing the leader. Maybe lost, I don't know, 20 or 30 yards of line off of that, but that's no big deal. The line is still in great condition. It was a pretty clean break. So later on, when I get home, I can retie a leader onto that. But whilst I'm out here fishing, I've got 4 or 5 of these spare spools, all spooled up with line and shock leader, and a clip on the end, so we're pretty much good to go. Don't really want to be messing around tying knots when I'm out fishing. So that bait's been out there now for only a few minutes. So it's time to grab another trace out and start baiting it up. But like I say, when you're fishing these kind of marks, it is rough grounds. That is what it's known for. You are going to get snagged up. You can do everything possible to try and, minimise the amount of gear you're going to lose. But at the end of the day, you are going to lose some tackle. It's the nature of the beast. Well, as you can see, I have now moved down closer to the water, and I've also set up the second rod. So if you've watched my videos before, you'll know I'm not a fan of using 2 rods all of the time, but I think in a situation like this, when fish are going to be thin on the ground, having 2 baits out there, it's just common sense really. It is rough, it's a snaggy mark. It does mean perhaps losing twice as much gear as you would otherwise, but sometimes you've got to do these things. I think when you're out targeting fish like cod, certainly on a year like this where it is extremely quiet, and I know we keep saying it, but it really is very, very slow. It is important to change your mindset. Don't go out thinking, I'm going to catch a cod. Just go out fishing, get some baits in the water and keep trying. Keep repeating that process over and over, and sooner or later you're going to catch. But if you go out and you kind of think to yourself, we're just going to give it a go, see what happens. If you do catch that fish, and that's all it takes. It only takes that one bite, that one cod of 5, 10 pound, whatever it might be, and it makes your session, absolutely makes it. With this more targeted approach today as well, just having lugworm and a few crab, the chances of catching anything else are, you basically reduce your odds. If you were to come out here with a selection of baits and use, say, bluey and squid on one rod, we all know chances are you're going to catch a ray, you might catch a conger. By just using that lugworm, a little bit of crab, it's kind of more selective fishing. It's what I'd refer to as target fishing. tell you what though, it's a proper grey old day, and I can't remember the last time I was fishing in bright sunshine. Kind of wishing for some summer now, to be honest. I think it was actually about a year ago to the day that I came out here cod fishing, just on the rocks that are poking out over there, and had one of just over £10, which I was absolutely chuffed to bits with. And it's, you know, it's not the cod seasons that we used to know. You're not catching numbers of fish. The channel is pretty empty of cod at the moment, it's got to be said. But you put enough hours in, stick at it, keep doing the right things, and you do need a little bit of luck, I've got to say. And I think that's what I had with that fish. First cod session out in the winter, and bang, you couldn't make it up. So that's my left-hand rod in need of a bait change, and obviously no signs of life on the rod tip. Let's see if we can get this one back. There we go. And it's just a case of catching up with the lead. A lot of the time, you think of all the stretch in that main line. It's under a lot of tension out there. And obviously once you get the gear moving, just wind like hell. I'm pretty sure I've still got the lead on here as well, which is a bonus. Keep half an eye on the other rod whilst it's out there. So you see there's no weed coming up the line. There's no weed on the tip. Little bit hanging off the lead or not. My point is, if you were to fish out here on a spring tide, it can be really weedy. And that's not even weed, that's a bit of plastic, sadly. So make sure your leader knot is absolutely clear of anything that could potentially cause a crack off. There we go. So let's give you a look at this a second. You can see the rotten, I've just found another lead actually, I'll show you that. There we go. No loop on it, but one to melt down. So there you go. That's what's left of the bait. Not a great deal, but possibly still enough to find the fish. But you can see how that weak link system has properly deployed, and had the lead been really snagged up, we could have pulled for a break and just snapped the lead away. Right, let's fire the next bait out there. So I haven't actually mentioned it yet in this video so far, so I will now. What I've got here is Any Fish Anywhere GBFS Pro Mark 1, and on there I've got the Shimano Power Aero 14000 XSB, 20 pound Asso Ultracast mainline, and on this one today an Asso shock leader as well. Let's chuck it out there. And there are a few nice little spots to actually plant your feet a little bit out here. They are few and far between, but here we go. Watch the camera, Jensen. And if you're interested in any of the tackle that you've seen us using today, check out the video description for a full list of links. Nice. Kind of looking at that rod tip, watching it and wishing it would sort of bend over or pop up slack. Could still happen. Got about an hour until low tide now, so there's everything to play for. Now the important thing, as I alluded to earlier, when you're cod fishing, is to have some run of tide. It doesn't have to be absolutely tanking through. As long as you've got a steady trickle, which is what we've got there now, those lines are nice and tight. It's just enough movement going on out there. And we're coming up to, yeah, we are bang on 1 hour before low tide. And all the while now, that tide's going to ease off and ease off and ease off. So we've got to be making the most of it, because you don't get any tide then until the flood. And the flood, not the best time here in my opinion. I've caught most of my better fish on the ebb. And going back 20, 30 years ago, there were a lot more fish caught on the flood, which is strange. I don't know why that was. I know a lot of the older anglers, they swear by the flood out here. Personally for me, I've always found the ebb to be favourite, but there you go. So this is the right hand rod coming in for a bait change, and I'm giving these about 30 minutes out there now. Based on how they've been coming back, they've been pretty decent. Come on. Still plenty of tide out there. Really want to get this one back and get that fresh bait out there while the tide's still with us, because as soon as it goes, we will have a quiet spell. There we go. So yeah, once you get your gear out of the bottom, you really do want to keep winding and don't stop. I don't know if we've lost the lead here or not. A little bit of weight there. Hopefully it's still attached. Looking up at the other rod tip, looking for signs of life. Well, there aren't any. You've just got to keep going though. That's all you can ever do. So we've kept the lead, a little bit of weed on the lead or not. Let's get rid of that. There we go. And it's interesting, you can see that the bit of crab is left on there, but the lug is all but gone. So anyway, next bait, here we go. So I'm going to fling this one over to the right a little bit of where I am, just to spread the baits out. It's quite important to do that really when you think about it, because you want to cover as much ground as possible. So find a reasonable foot placement where you're not going to go flying. Kind of easier said than done. There we go. Right. Perfect. Just where we want it. And you could see when that lead hit the water, you just sort of see the splash moving from right to left in the tide. That tells you that you are casting in cod territory. There we go. And we are starting to lose the light now, and that's not going to help in terms of showing you a lot, but we will try. So yet another bait change. Just want to keep these fresh for as long as possible, and you know, so if there is a passing cod, there is a decent bait out there in front of it. Still see the tide running off the edge of the rocks, just on the other side of the small bay here. So that's good, that's a positive. And this does feel very light, so I don't know if the lead has popped off of this one. I think it may have done. It's just the pressure of the bait and the tackle coming through the tide. Oh no, tell a lie, we've got the lead back. Yes, it's a funny mark sometimes. You could lose a lead every cast, and then you won't lose anything for a couple of sessions. There we go. Yeah, there was quite a bit of bait left on that one. Could have left it out there. Never mind. We are slowly running out of time, but like I say, there's still tide. There's still a run of tide, so there's still time to find a fish. So there is tension on both of these rods, and that is the important thing. If you're looking at your rod and it's poker straight, that tells you there's no tide out there. If you've got to tighten the line up yourself to put a bend in the end of the rod, there is no tide. You want that rod tip just to come over just naturally and just sit there. You don't want to see it pulling over and popping up and pulling over and popping up, because that would tell you that your lead weight is pulling out of the bottom and just jumping off in the tide. Well, my left-hand rod has just dropped slack in a very peculiar manner, so that was totally out of nowhere. I was just about to call it a night, in all honesty. Just picked up the right-hand rod to have it in, and I looked at the other rod, this one, and the line was just hanging. There might be something there. Let's have a look. Ah, that was very strange. Just for a second I felt something pull back and then gone. Now I don't know what I've lost, but that was very peculiar. I've still got the rig. No. Well, what a shame. That could have been what we were looking for. Well, I've done a good hour plus of the flooding tide, and clearly I've got nothing to show for it. It's been incredibly slow. But this is the reality of cod fishing in 2025. It's all too easy to go on social media and see pictures of big fish and think, oh yeah, I can get myself a piece of that, no problem. It's not that easy, it's really not. It's about putting the hours in, the right place, the right time, and just a little bit of luck as well. And this year, to be quite frank, you need a lot of luck. Anyway, despite the lack of fish, I hope you still found this video interesting and you picked up a few bits and bobs from it that might come in handy for your own fishing. I'm going to get off now, but thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.